Hello, I'm Pastor Brown. Today is lecture number 3 in our series entitled, Is Gay Okay Yet? Straight Talk with Dr. Brown. We'll be ready to begin in 2 minutes. Grab your cup of coffee. If you miss me from singing down here, and you can't find me nowhere, then why don't you come to right glory? You know that I'll be waiting up there, waiting up there. Said if you miss me from praying down here, and you can't find me nowhere, then why don't you come to right glory? You know that I'll be waiting, waiting up there, waiting up there. Now won't you come on, don't stop there, come on, it's praying time, come on, see the king, come on, around the throne, come on, mother's there, come on, father too, come on, sisters there, come on, brother too, come on, come on up, come on, come on up, come on, come on up, come on up, come on up. Well, you know I'll be waiting, waiting up there, waiting up there. Well, you see, if you missed me from shouting down here. All right. Blessings to you and welcome back. So let us continue. Again, this is part 3 in our series entitled, Is Gay Okay Yet? Straight Talk with Dr. Brown. Again, young people very frequently find themselves confused about many issues, not the least of which is sex. Whether it is part of the normal adolescent trip to sexual identity or a spin-off effect of the current debate over homosexuality. Some young people do question whether they are heterosexual. Now, for example, one source says in a 1992 survey of nearly 35,000 Minnesota youth, homosexual researcher Gary Ramafidi at the University of Minnesota found that almost 26%, actually 25.9%, of 12-year-olds were not sure whether they were heterosexual or homosexual. But Gary also found out that such confusion begins to decrease as students grow older. Now, research by Dr. Kirk Cameron concurred in a paper published in 1995 by Family Research Institute that study found that while 25% of kids were unsure of their sexual orientation at age 12, that percentage steadily declined to about 5% by the age 18. But see, homosexual activists take full advantage of this confusion by eagerly encouraging young people to experiment with homosexuality. In Northborough, Massachusetts, for example, parents of freshmen were flabbergasted to discover that their children had been invited by their high school teacher to try homosexuality. This particular history teacher, who was an advisor to the school's Gay Straight Student Alliance, handed out a questionnaire that asked, quote, if you've never slept with a person of the same sex and enjoyed it, is it possible that all you need is a good gay lover? Close quote. That was the questionnaire. Now, therapists treating teenage boys with unwanted sex attraction will typically help them to feel more secure in their maleness. They work with them to develop a deeper bond with the same-sex parent and to diminish the negative effects of peer rejection so that these sexual confused young men will bond with their non-romanticized or eroticized other males. But New Jersey's new law several years ago prohibits any sexual orientation change efforts. And it also prohibits more subtle changes, any efforts to change behaviors, gender identity, or gender expressions, and any effort to reduce or eliminate sexual or romantic attractions or feelings toward a person of the same gender. Therefore, a boy cannot legally receive counseling to feel more comfortable with his biological maleness. That was the law. Now, the same bill, this New Jersey bill prohibits licensed therapists from providing change orientation speech to minors, change oriented speech to minors with unwanted sex attraction, but allows minors to pursue sexual reassignment surgery. A recent enacted New Jersey Law Assembly Bill number 3371 prohibits minors from receiving treatment from unwanted same-sex attractions. Paradoxically, however, it allows therapists to work with those same clients towards changing their biological sex. In other words, if a young boy who's confused and does not want those feelings of homoeroticism, therapists are not allowed to help him. But if that same boy wants to pursue and take it a little further, the therapist is allowed to help them, to assist them in changing their biological sex. Now, activists have made sure that the bill at the time does not prevent treatment for one of their favorite goals, sex and gender changes. In other words, again, while therapists cannot help boys feel more like boys, they're still permitted to help boys dress and act like girls. According to the new law, therapists will be allowed to conduct counseling for a person asking to transition from one gender to another. Now, former Jersey Governor Chris Christie, while in office, signed into law a bill that would ban licensed professional clinicians from providing help to minors who are experiencing homosexual attractions unless these therapists were willing to provide gay affirming therapy. Bowing to pressure from gay activists, Christie issued a statement that repeated almost word for word the misrepresentations and untruths offered up during the legislative debate by extremists testifying for the bill. In the governor's own words at that time, reported by ABC News, in a note accompanying the bill, Christie said he believes that people are born gay and that homosexuality is not a sin. Let me repeat that. Chris Christie said that people are born gay and that homosexuality isn't sinful. The former governor also said that the health risks of trying to change a child's sexual orientation, as identified by the American Psychological Association, outweighed concerns over the government setting limits on parental choice. He goes on to say, quote, however, I also believe that on the issues of medical treatment for children, we must look to the experts in the field to determine the relative risks and rewards, close quote. Christie said, citing a litany of potential ill effects of trying to change sexual orientation, including depression and suicide. He said, quote, I believe that exposing children to these health risks without clear evidence of benefits that outweigh the serious risks is not appropriate. Close quote. North, at that time, as an organization and several individual therapists attempted to contact former Governor Christie and asked for the opportunity to meet with him. Once that failed, once they could not get a hold of him, North wrote to the governor to inform him and provide him with research evidence that said, number one, there is no evidence that people are born gay. Number two, the American Psychiatric Association cites and reports no evidence that individuals are harmed by professional therapy for unwanted same-sex attraction. Number three, there is absolutely no evidence that children who might be seen by a therapist in some cases because of abuse or neglect and are having confused or misdirected feelings of same-sex attraction experience any suicidal feelings or depression related to sexual orientation change efforts therapy. That's what North said. Let's look at the mental health of our LGBTQ plus friends. Some homosexuals are more likely to suffer from depression. A new study in the United Kingdom has revealed that homosexuals are about 50% more likely to suffer from depression and engage in substance abuse than the rest of the population, reported Health24.com years ago. They went on to say the risk of suicide jumped over 200% if an individual had engaged in a homosexual lifestyle. The lifespan of a homosexual is on average 24 years shorter than that of a heterosexual. While the Health 24 article suggested that homosexuals may be pushed to substance abuse and suicide because of anti-homosexual culture and family pressures, empirical tests have shown that there is no difference in homosexual health risk depending on the level of tolerance in a particular environment. This study shows that forcing tolerance of the gay lifestyle does not increase one's number of years living. Let me say that again. This study shows that forcing tolerance of the gay lifestyle does not increase one's number of years living. Homosexuals in the United States and Denmark, the latter of which is acknowledged to be highly tolerant of homosexuality, both die on average in their early 50s or in their early 40s if AIDS is the cause of death. The average age for all residents in either country ranges from mid to upper 70s. Let's talk about promiscuity. While it could be argued that two men or two women having sexual intercourse with each other and only each other can't harm anyone, the fact is that homosexuality is not a monogamous affair. The homosexual lifestyle is by nature promiscuous, as the facts demonstrate. In their study of sexual profiles of almost 2,600 older homosexuals found that the average range for number of sexual partners ever of homosexuals was from 101 to 500. In addition, 10.2% to 15.7% had between 501 and 1,000 partners. And a further study suggested that 10.1 or 10.2% to 15.7% reporting having more than 1,000 lifetime partners. So you see, even though that percentage is 500 to 1, a lot of them reported to having over 1,000 sex partners. Mercy. In a recent survey conducted among Americans, 6.4% of females and 4.9% of males identify themselves as part of the LGBT community. Over recent decades, studies have shown that American society has grown more welcoming or accepting to the members of this community. However, the discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity is still a serious concern in the United States. In 2001, 53% of respondents stated that they believe gay or lesbian relationships to be morally wrong. But in 2020, this number had fallen to just 32%. Over half the people living with HIV in the United States are gay and bisexual men, according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. Out of the 1.1 million people living with HIV in the United States, roughly 700,000 of them attain the virus through male sexual intercourse. Roughly 3 out of every 4 people in the United States who become HIV positive in 2017 were men who had sex with men. Among all U.S. gay and bisexual men, the lifetime risk of acquiring HIV is currently 1 in 6. Lifetime HIV risk is even higher among black, gay, and bisexual men, 1 in 2. The Latinx gay and the bisexual men, 1 in 4. That's the Latinx. An estimated 17% of gay and bisexual men living with HIV haven't been diagnosed. Read it. An estimated 17% of gay and bisexual men living with HIV haven't been diagnosed. But when you dive into these numbers, what they really mean gets a little murkier. Defining gay in the CDC HIV statistics. Now, looking back again, let's go back and look at the youth again. It used to be, looking back at the youth, it used to be, but now it is no surprise for parents to learn that the nation's public school system is being used by homosexual activists as an avenue, herding confused children into the homosexual community under the guise of protecting homosexual teens. Young people are given unrestricted access to homosexual groups. Once guided there, however, there is no limit to the depths of same-sex iniquity to which teens may be exposed. In Seattle, for example, several years ago, the Sexual Minority Advocacy Council was created to help ensure that the Seattle Public Schools, are providing a safe environment for everyone who learns, works, or interacts, according to the school superintendent, John Stanford. However, with the student safety concern out in front, the purpose of SMAC then bleeds over into other areas. A SMAC pamphlet produced by the Seattle Education Association and made available to all students included a list of resources that amounts to a Seattle's same-sex smorgasbord for curious teens, complete with phone numbers, which included, I got to go back and read that again. A pamphlet produced by the Seattle Education Association was made available to all students, included a list of resources that amounts to a Seattle same-sex smorgasbord for curious teens, complete, and phone numbers, which included the following: Lesbian Resource Center, Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, Transgender Youth Information Line, Lambert House Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Youth Drop-In Center, and Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. When the children access various web pages recommended by this group, it opens avenues to all kinds of homosexual sites. Pictures of naked, same-sex teenagers embracing and homosexual dating services where gay youth could find partners or friends of the same sexual orientation. And chat rooms where homosexual youth could meet others. What is even more alarming is this. Other perversions accessible from this group, this group's webpage included homosexual pornography, stories which included same-sex incestuous acts between fathers and sons, videos and sadomasochism, and listings for phone sex and live sex shows. All available were free images showing naked men, genitalia, and oral sex acts. All of this in school. Listen, adults prey on the confused youth. Teens confused about their sexuality often complete their first same-sex experience with an older homosexual, and statistics demonstrate that such first sexual experiences are a powerful force for molding sexual identity. Now remember Robert Baldwin. He said, quote, "I did not choose to be homosexual," close quote. In other words, at the young age of 5, having been molested, all he knew, quote, "an involuntary reaction to the sight, smell, and feel of other boys," close quote. That's what Robert Baldwin said. In Atlanta, another example, Lipsky, a reporter, said, quote, "Young gay life functions as a kind of assistant to adult gay life with a lot of back and forth slippage," close quote. There is even a lexicon of terms that describe the sexual interplay between adults and young homosexuals. One of those terms is, quote, "chicken hawk," close quote, which describes adult male homosexuals who try to have sex with teens who have just come out of the closet, who are called chickens or fresh meat. From the homosexual teens who frequented one Atlanta mall, Lipsky learned that a lot of the young men had their first sexual experience with an older man. Shannon Curtis, for example, had his homosexual introduction with 2 adult homosexual co-workers when they invited the then 14-year-old Curtis to their apartment. Statistically, there is intergenerational sexual interaction is not a deviation. The Sigma Project in 1992, which interviewed and followed almost 1,000 homosexuals in Britain over a 3-year period, found that 50% of homosexuals had their first same-sex experience with an adult by the age of 14. So you see, this is not just Atlanta. According to the Family Research Institute, which reviewed the Sigma data, 25% of those homosexuals had had sex with an adult by the age of 12 and 10% by the age of 10. This adult homosexual fascination with younger partners is admitted even by the homosexual community. 2 homosexual researchers, KJ and A. Young of 79, found that 73% of the male homosexuals had had sex as adults with boys 19 years old or younger. 23% admitted to having sex with youth less than 16 years of age. According to the family research head, Dr. Paul Cameron, research by Kinsey Institute in 1907 found that 25% of homosexual men in San Francisco admitted to having sex with boys aged 16 or younger, while they themselves were at least 21. Can you imagine what the statistic now in 2022? These organizations also condemn all efforts to provide treatment to gender-confused students, advocating instead the creation of student groups that affirm homosexual attractions and behaviors as normal. My friends, in keeping my promise, roughly 25 minutes, we've got to stop right there. Thank you for tuning in with us, and Lord willing, you come back for Is Gay Okay Yet? Straight Talk with Dr. Brown, Part 4, Lord willing, on tomorrow at 6 p.m. Until then, God bless you, and peace be unto you.